Welcome to Sip Sip Hooray, the podcast where every bottle has a story, every vineyard has a personality, and every conversation brings us a little closer to the people behind the labels we love. Today we're taking a trip to the stunning shores of Lake Garda in northern Italy, where vineyards, history, and breathtaking scenery come together to create some truly remarkable wines. Joining us is Luca Formentini of Selva Capuzza, a fourth-generation family winery that's helping preserve the unique identity of this special corner of Italy. While much of the wine world chases international varieties and trends, Luca and his team are all about celebrating the local grapes, traditions, and flavors that make the Lake Garda region unlike anywhere else. We'll talk about Luca's journey, the story behind Selva Capuzza, the fascinating wine culture of the region, and native varietals that have captured the winery's heart. Along the way, we'll explore what it means to make wines that are deeply connected to place, history, and family. So grab a glass, get comfortable, and come along with us as we discover one of Italy's most captivating wine regions and the good people and sustainable practices that bring it to life. We are the two Marys who like to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm Mary Babbitt.
I'm Mary Orlin. In September 2025, I traveled through northern Italy's many wine regions with my husband. We planned a few days in the Lugana DOC, the wine appellation on the southern shore of Lake Garda, the country's largest lake. Through a friend's recommendation, we booked our stay at the Agriturismo Selva Capuzza in one of the farm apartments there. I had several winery visits lined up, but not at Selva Capuzza. There just wasn't time. But at our first appointment, the winemaker there insisted I go visit Luca. He said he's the ambassador of Lugana. Well, how could I not? We managed to squeeze in what we thought would be a short tasting. But once we started talking to Luca and tasting his wines, we didn't want to leave. He's a multifaceted individual, winemaker, cultural custodian, and a prolific ambient music composer. He's also very passionate about sustainability in the vineyard and winery, and it all started with guitar strings. We're happy that Luca is joining us from Italy via Zoom, and that we get to share his story and the wines of Lugana DOC. Ciao, Luca, and welcome to Sip Sip Hooray.
Ciao, Mary, and ciao, Mary. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor.
Well, we are glad you're here and joining us from the Lake Garda region. Can you set the scene for us? Where are you? For folks not familiar, describe what it's like right where you are.
Okay, so I'm located 4 kilometers south of the shore of the southern area of Lake Garda. So in between Desenzano and Sirmione, which are the two main villages of the Lombardy side of Lake Garda. Lake Garda is still now a border between the two regions, Veneto on the east coast and Lombardia on the west coast. And at the very top, you can find a small touch of Trentino Alto Adige. So we are in Lombardia at the beginning of the Morenic Amphitheater. This is the place which is called Selva Capuzza, which is the cap of the different selva. Selva comes from the Latin word for wild place, and you have many different small localities with the small names, and these are where there was a very dangerous and abandoned area up to the 1000. Until the Benedictine monks began to clean the ground and to make it suitable for growing, for farming. And so Selva Capuzza is the top of this small Selva area.
And so I mentioned that you're in the Lugana DOC. Can you tell us about Lugana and what defines this DOC?
Yeah, Lugana is this very old appellation. It was the first appellation in Lombardy, which was established in 1967. Well, actually, it was the first white appellation in Lombardy. And it's based on a grape variety which is called Tuebiana, and I think that the reason of this name goes back to the dialect original name, which is connected to the word turbid, because this grape variety is has a very thick skin, and there's a lot of meat uh, uh, close to the skin, so it makes it very slow at cleaning when you after pressing when you get the must.
Mhm.
It takes a long time, so it's turbid. It's cloudy, and Turbiana is of course, one of the most uh, important elements of this wine because it's a very slow ripening grape variety. Just to give you an idea, we start picking the Turbiana grapes when we want to make sparkling wines, Metodo Classico, around the half of September, the first half of September, while we pick the last grapes of Turbiana around the half of October. So it has a very, very wide uh, time window,
Yeah.
which allows you as a producer to pick what you need, depending on which is your intention, which is your project in the Lugana.
But
Mhm.
for people not familiar with Turbiana, it's a white wine that has a lot of acidity, that is known for minerality, floral aromas, right?
Mhm.
And citrus
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It is a very interesting grape variety because it has a very fine and elegant aromaticity, which is connected to sometimes to the tropical fruit, to the citrusy, as you were saying, citrusy side. And one of the most interesting characters of Lugana, it's that it's very, very interesting when it's young and fresh and vibrant, but it's able to keep growing for a
Mm,
long time.
mhm.
Yeah.
And and we
And
discovered this, sorry.
no, go ahead. I
uh,
was going to
okay,
say that
yeah,
you make several expressions of Turbiana.
yeah,
Um, one that is the younger one that's kind of in between, and one that's a little has some more age on it. So,
yeah.
um, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, this is exactly because Tubiana is so flexible, is so versatile as a grape variety that it calls you. It's inviting you to to try different interpretations. So, for example, the first Lugana, which comes out of the wine cellar, which we bottle first after the harvest, which is usually happening between February and March, is the Lugana, which is coming from the younger vineyards, and I mean between 12, 15 to 20, 25 years old vineyards. And and this is the first which comes out. And it's very crisp. It's very electric, and but still it has juice. It has a
Mm.
natural softness, which is balancing this vibrancy that it is one of the most interesting characters, which is m making your mouth clean after the seep, uh,
Uh-huh.
which which is, I think, one a very, very important element. And because I want the wine to prepare my mouth for the next bite of food. I don't want wines which are, overloading, which are becoming louder and louder.
I like
Yeah,
the connection to the food and cleaning your mouth and helping you be ready for another delicious bite of food. And it's the thing, it's a complement to the meal as opposed to a meal in the
totally.
glass.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. I remember. I don't want to go in dangerous uh, talk, but uh, I remember how impressed I was when someone told me that, in a sense, wine is like a dressing for the food. because it's not
Mm.
together with the food, but it's playing together with the food.
Hmm.
You cannot, you have to, well, I will remember forever the time when I understood what it means to have the right balance between food and wine. And that uh, was allowing you to have a full experience of enjoyment of the experience of what you were eating and what you were drinking. So they were playing together, and there's a very old way of saying in Italy, which goes like the right food makes the wine better, and the right wine makes the food better,
And
which
it's a
is very
nice
true.
balance, right? So tell us about your family's history with Selva Capuzza and your path to wine.
My family began to work in the wine business with my grandfather in 1917. And at that time, uh, wine was a totally different experience. So, first of all, you have to consider that until a few decades ago, the work of producing grapes and making wine was different from the work of selling the wine at that time, at the beginning, Damjan, so the big bottles which were delivered to the osteria, where they were serving wine by the glass or with on the carafe. And so my family began as a family which was dedicated and focused on selling the wine. So my grandmother and my grandfather were, sorry, grandmother and grandmother were going to choose the grape varieties from which they were then buying the wines. My grandfather on the Veneto side of the lake, and my grandmother on the Lombardy side of the lake. And so they were getting the wines at a wine cellar, and then they were distributing these wines to
Okay.
uh, to their customers. At that time, wine consumption was very, very high. And so the next generation arrived, and then it was my father, who was born in 1943. And he always tells that he knew that he was going to be an enologist even before his birth. So
Wow.
he so he, he went to study enology in Alba, and at that time, I think that there were like 20, 30 enologists coming out every year. And and so he began to work from the grapes to the final result. So that was the first generation that began to take care to the full production. And he arrived in the Lugana area at around the 70s, and we started to produce these wines, but not just Lugana, because this very beautiful spot is very unique because you have three different appellations overlapping each other. So you have Lugana, which is the most famous. Then you have San Martino della Battaglia, which is coming from another white grape variety called Tuqui. And then you have a very interesting red appellation, which is called Gala Classico. And so Selva Capuzza, the origins of Selva Capuzza uh, are coming from that time of my family's history.
And did you always know that you'd end up in wine, or did you have other ideas about your own path first?
Dangerous question.
Huh?
Yeah, no, I really had no idea, and my first passion was music, and it is a very important presence in my life since I was 12, 13 years old. And I was not sure I was going to make it as a wine producer. I was not sure I was going to be able uh, to bring the family business on. And it was very, very hard. It has been very, very difficult for me because I I, I thought that the way that wine was made and first of all was marketed at that time was too hard for me. It was you need to be very assertive. You have to be safe of what you think, of what you do. And at that time, uh, I had the feeling that instead of uh, I'm coming from listening, and so I remember how difficult it was for me because I remember I saw my colleagues who were trying to impose their opinion. And I will always remember that the trend at that time was, okay, if you don't like this wine, it's because you don't understand it.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your fault. And
Right.
I
Right.
was like, No, I can't do that
Mm-hmm.
because I think that anybody has everything they need to judge which wine, food they have to put in their mouth. And so for me, it has been very, very difficult also because the everything was based on who was having the oldest castle and
Oh, yeah.
the heaviest bottle and
Right.
the most shiny labels, and it was
Uh-huh.
a company
I know.
competition on
Well, thank
on la
goodness the wine industry is slowly, but is moving away from some of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things. And one of the mottos of Selva Capuzza is trust your taste. And I
yeah,
guess this
yeah,
is, where that philosophy originated. It was how you were,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is it's always very important for us to invite people to have a very spontaneous and natural connection to what they taste. Uh, you know, another funny thing which connects to music, it's that I realize that from time to time, when I taste a wine and I'm tasting it together with other people, I sometimes make a mistake, and instead of saying, uh, "Do you? How do you taste it?" or "Can you taste this one?" I use the word "listen." And sometimes the opposite happens when I talk about music. I'm talking about taste in music because
Well, that's fascinating.
it is.
They're both lived experiences, the taste and what you're hearing, what you're tasting, your body's experiencing it in different ways. I love that.
And it's very subjective. So they're
Uh-huh.
both very subjective. Nobody can tell you that what you taste or what you listen is wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
tell us about this music background of yours.
Yes.
And what kind
yeah,
of music are you interested in? And how did you then decide, okay, my focus is going to be wine, but are you still into music on the side? Tell me more.
well, I began to be connected to music when I was very young because I think that the first connection was with sound more than music. I remember that uh, well, one of the first images I remember is when I was very young and I was laying in a bed, in a bed waiting for my aunt to stop cleaning with I don't know how you call that machine that allows you to clean the floor, and it's
Vacuum cleaner.
yeah,
Yeah, the
okay,
vacuum.
it's okay, and it's like a drone, okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that I was staying under under the blanket, and I was feeling um, in a very safe place, and that feeling was always very important to me because that sensation of being in a safe place where I could keep connected with my emotions, my dreams, and in that position of not being precisely somewhere has always been very, very important. And I was lucky to meet music which was offering me the the chance to go back to that sensation when I was like 18, 19 years old, after a few years of playing with rock bands and so on. And since I discovered what was called ambient music, I focused on doing that. And ambient music is the kind of music which became uh, more popular during the last few years, mostly because I think two things happening. One is the use of this music in film scores, in
Hmm.
movie scores. So very abstract. There's no subject. There's no one singing. Sometimes there's no rhythm. It's very abstract. And the other thing is the discover of composers like Brian Eno and other important American composers, which began to think about music not as a subject which has to entertain you, not as a subject
Hmm.
which has to deliver a meaning, but as a sort of element which has to, which can help you to navigate a personal, emotional condition. And and I think it is very, very fascinating. It
Yeah.
can be made by electronic instruments, by acoustic instruments, and it is more and more connecting itself with what is called modern classical music.
Interesting. So you actually have a partner you compose with from time to time, and that person is actually based in the what we call the high desert, kind of near Joshua Tree, correct?
Well, I'm working pretty often with Robert Rich, who is a composer who is actually living in Carmel, but he used to be
Carmel.
in San Francisco. And he is one of the key uh, ambient composers in the world. And for sure, together with Brian Eno and Steve Roach,
Mhm.
one of the very first names that comes to your mind when you think about ambient music.
Ambient
Um,
music is interesting to me because it doesn't have, you're not doing, like a catchy hook
Yeah,
or and repeating a chorus or something like that, right?
yeah,
It's more atmospheric and
yeah.
so when you were talking about wine as something you hear, ambient music is because it's atmospheric, it's something you feel in your body,
Yeah,
right? In a
yeah,
different way than you would feel like a funky groove or something, right?
totally. Yes.
Interesting.
so, do you have a particular style or signature in your music that you're known for?
I don't know. I don't know. This is a question that you probably should ask to someone else.
Mm.
I um, One thing that it's funny because I've always been scared of becoming boring, uh, both as a musician when I offer my music, but also for me when I compose my music. I always try different solutions because I easily get bored, and so sometimes I disturb myself. In a way, I use instruments that I don't know how to play, for example, or I limit myself into um, a narrower vocabulary. And this is very often uh, uh, surprisingly uh, rich in results. Sometimes just because it helps you to change your perspective and to react to something which is not predictable. And this is a very interesting element which connects to making wines.
Okay, how
It's
so?
about it's about the interpretation of the condition of the current harvest. It's always about interpretation in trying to do the best you can with what you have available. There's not a recipe which you can use every time because the ingredients are different. And so, more than thinking about a precise final result, I think that you're thinking about a way of to to translate what you
Mm,
have, and this is a funny connection with the word ambient in music to the
hmm.
word ambient in nature,
Okay.
because uh, uh, you know, and even more during these last years when nature is expressing is expressing itself in such a violent way,
Right.
Mm,
uh, you have to deal with it. That
sure.
you're very small. You
Hmm.
have a very very small power to change or to control the situation.
Sure. Mary.
Speaking of nature, the land that where you guys produce your wine and where you grow your grapes, sustaining that is really important to Selva Capuzza. And I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about your relationship to the land, the importance of sustainability, and what that looks like for you guys.
This is a very interesting question because, again, it's a connection to music. You remember when I was telling you that beginning to or trying to become the fourth generation was very, very difficult for me.
Mhm.
And so I tried to find um, as many solutions to feel myself um, really there, present, not just you know doing something, but I needed to feel myself really there, and uh, and I remember that I think it was more than 35 years ago or something like that. I bought a new set of strings, and I realized that the packaging was different from my usual packaging, and so I was afraid of having bought the wrong set of strings. And so
Mhm.
by looking closely to the box, I realized that there was on a corner of the box there was something on in a more shiny color saying this is the new packaging, which is using the 30% less packaging material than our previous box. And then when I opened that, I read about the sustainability idea, which was behind the moving far away from each single string, one single envelope into a bigger box, to one big envelope for the six strings and one box for the big envelope, so that you didn't need to recognize the single strings because of the writings on the single envelope, but just by a color on the bullet on the final part of the string, which was allowing you to know to see which strings goes where, which note
Mm.
for.
Oh, so it's interesting where inspiration comes from. Who would think that guitar strings would set you on the path of exploring and implementing all the sustainable practices that you now use?
Yeah, and Mary, I was looking for ideas, but I was mainly looking for my identity in a job
Mm,
which I would have not probably chose. So that job was in my family, but was it really my job? I
okay, sure.
a- a- and so I thought, okay, sustainability. I like the idea of uh, doing what I do with the less possible impact, uh, and possibly doing what I do, mm, bringing uh, bringing good. I don't know. This is I'm using very simple words, but just not causing any. What can you say? I didn't want to be bad, negative for the environment.
Sure, you
Uh,
you wanted to leave as less a carbon footprint as possible.
yeah, and at that time, carbon footprint was still uh, very far away as a concept.
Hmm.
But I remember that, well, sorry, so going back to the strings, so my first idea was, okay, let's use the lightest possible glass, the lightest possible paper. Let's not use any plastic on the cardboard boxes. Uh, let's be as light and I would say when you can everything can be becomes fluid in water, so not yeah, not plastic elements.
Hmm,
and
hmm.
uh, and then a few years after that, there was the first time I heard about a carbon footprint. And so the concept of energy waste or energy consumption to produce a product.
Hmm.
So the relation between energy and so the input and the output. So how many, how much you need to do what you want to do. And so we were among the first 10, 12 Italian wine companies to look after the carbon footprint. And that opened this new idea of trying to understand all the small and many decisions that you can take to do what you want to do in the most sustainable way. And uh,
Right.
and that opened so many different ideas.
That's great. Yeah, and your efforts have been recognized. You were the first producer awarded the Green Winemaker of the
Yeah,
Year by Corriere della Sera
yeah,
in
yeah,
2021. It's an
yeah.
Italian newspaper, and yeah, so I think that's great. Now, I think the sustainable efforts, you can see it when you actually visit Selva Capuzza and the winery and the apartments, all part of the farm or the podere. And can you talk about what the experience of you've got three aspects to Selva Capuzza? You have the winery, you have the apartments or where you can stay as part of the agriturismo, and then there's also a restaurant. Can you kind of talk about how those three work together and what the experience is like for visitors?
Oh, yeah, of course. And it's another funny story because, uh, well, we as a family, we are originally from Brescia, which is the main town, uh, 30 kilometers from the lake. So mm, my family was there, and my father was dreaming to convince my mother to move from Brescia to come to Selva Capuzza. And so he bought a very old farm, which was abandoned for many years, and he began to restore this old farm. And so uh, my father was like trying to convince my mother that it was a good place to move, and so he was organizing barbecues on Sundays together with friends to make her feel, you know. And
You're gonna love it here.
yeah, exactly. But at that time, the southern area of Lake Garda, well, if you were on the shore, you were having the feeling of being in a touristic area. But if you were just a couple of miles, even closer far away from the lake, it was you were in the middle of nowhere. So my mother, who used to be living in a town with all her friends at very close to her, and she could just walk to the bakery and so on. To think about coming in the middle of nowhere, where anything you want to do, you have to take your car and to drive for at least 7, 8 kilometers. She told me, no, no way, no way. So, uh, because among my parents' friends, there were people working in the agricultural um, uh, section of the town hall and the province and so on. It was like 85 that in Italy they were trying to fight um, a very dangerous dynamic, which was created by the new modern idea of life, when everybody was thinking that the healthy life was connected with working in a town, in an office, working in a bank or the public place, and so on. So the villages and the mountains, all the young people, the new generations were moving away from the villages and the countrysides to go work in the big towns. And
Mhm.
that was a big issue in Italy, because nobody was carrying on the small farms which were anywhere in Italy. So there was a very brilliant idea at that time, which was the idea of allowing farmers to make a living, not just out of farming, but out of side business like restaurants and accommodations. So uh, you are not allowed to make a hotel or a restaurant in an area which is dedicated to farming, to agriculture. With that rule, with that law, you were allowed as a farmer to have a side business, so a few seats as a restaurant, or a few beds as accommodation, and that was the law called agriturismo. Well, Selva Capuzza was the first agriturismo to be established in Lombardy,
Mhm.
because these friends of my father told him, "Look, you have a farm, you have created a small kitchen. Why don't you try that?
Mhm.
You can promote your wines by offering uh, guests the experience of tasting those wines with the local food." And so Savacapuzza was the first agriturismo to be established in Lombardy at a time when wine tourism was very far away from anyone's mind. And so we started with the restaurant, And in 2003, we restored another farm, which is on the other side. So we have the wine cellar, which is in the center. Then we have the restaurant on one side and 870 steps on the other sides. On the other side, we have the apartments, where we have 11 apartments. We opened them in 2003. And the idea behind the apartments was we want to offer a connection to the place.
Mhm.
So I remember that the first thing I thought was I don't want to have televisions inside the apartments.
Hmm.
Okay, now thinking about not having television sounds pretty no problem, but in 2003, 2004, no television was like, are you kidding? Hmm? Okay, what do I
What?
do
What are
here?
we supposed to do?
What? So should we talk to each other? Should we
Right.
walk around? And so we were of course there were bottles of wine everywhere in the
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
I know what we can do. We can drink.
Exactly. And another idea was, okay, I don't want to buy fake old furnitures. I want to have original furnitures. So what should we do? We should buy old furnitures. Wow, they're fragile, they're very expensive. Okay, we will build our own furnitures. And
Mm.
so we
Huh.
had a carpenter working here for almost 2 years, and every bed, every closet, every kitchen was made here
Oh, I had
by,
no idea about that.
yeah, yeah, by very simple pieces of wood. And
That's cool.
yeah, and it's very, very simple, very basic.
Yeah, it is. It is. But the rooms are large. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes when you go to Europe, you can have a very tiny hotel room, but the apartment we stayed in had the bedroom, it had a big bathroom, it had a big kind of general area. It was really nice, and it's
thank
kind of
you.
rustic, but the grounds are beautiful, really nice, and
Yeah.
you
Thank
can
you.
walk
Yeah.
around and.
What is the experience you want people who come to visit to have? Like, what are you hoping they come away with?
Um, I hope that they recognize us as people and as a place where they can connect to themselves. It's basically the same idea I have with my music. I don't want to deliver any message. I mean, there's no meaning. I would just like you to allow yourself to connect together with yourself.
Mhm.
To offer you a safe space where you can trust what you feel,
Mhm.
and you're safe here. And
Mhm.
and so yes, I would like to invite people to connect to the simplicity and to the strength which is in simplicity. And yeah,
Yeah, well, that's great. And Luca, we will put links to Selva Capuzza, all the winery, the apartments, the restaurant, on our show notes, and I'll put some links in for to your music because
thank you.
you have
Sure.
a Spotify channel or two, so we'll
Yes, I do.
definitely do
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
so people can experience it, and especially, maybe get motivated to come visit you all and really explore the Lake Garda area and Lugana DOC. It's really breathtaking. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I
Thank
want to
you.
get out there and see it. It sounds incredible. And I love what you guys have done. I love the family story and how you're continuing with your own chapter and your caretaking of the land and the experience you want people to have is really beautiful. And I think it speaks to the depth of your personality. And I think that it sounds as if that's really truly reflected in everything you guys are doing at Selva Capuzza. So good on you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And it would be amazing to have you here so you can experience it by yourself.
Thank
Mhm.
you. I'd love to.
Yeah,
And we invite people
Right.
to go check it out and go visit Lake Garda
Absolutely.
and enjoy it.
Mhm. Yes,
please come.
exactly. Yes, great. Well, Luca, it has been such a pleasure talking with you, and thank you for joining us from Italy. And um, what an inspiration your story is about, how you are able to balance making wine and making music, and
Mhm.
it's really fantastic.
Thank you, Mary.
All
Thank you
right,
so
Luca.
much.
Thank you again
Okay,
for joining us. Ciao to you and sip, sip, hooray.
ciao.
Chin chin.
Well, what fun getting to know Luca. What an interesting person. He's so soulful, such a deep thinker. And I loved his story, the combination of music and wine and family and
Hmm.
place and history. It's all wonderful. And his care of nature. Loved it all.
You can see why people call him the ambassador of Lugana. He's just, he feels all this very deeply, and he wants to preserve it and carry it on.
Well, and how fun that you actually got to go visit there and see
Yeah,
and experience it. As I said, I hope to too. And it's, I think, for hopefully for our listeners, we've given them some inspiration, a new place to visit. Lake Garda is
yeah.
beautiful and
It's
plenty to see there, but the wine region, fabulous.
yeah, and you do have to look, but you can find like maybe one or two bottles of Lugana DOC wines at like Total Wine or on wine.com. But once you've had a Lugana wine, it's very distinct. It's very crisp with good racy acidity and all the floral and citrus notes, and it's just delicious. And I think once you have that, you will want to seek out more Lugana wines.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this conversation today. We really loved bringing it to you. And we thank you for sharing it, liking it, rating our show, because that helps us find new listeners.
That's right. As I mentioned, I'll put a bunch of links in our show notes, which is at sipsiphoorayypodcast.com. You can also follow us on socials at Sip Sip Hooray Podcast. And we have a Substack. If you subscribe to that, it's free. You'll get a notification every time we have a new episode, so you won't miss anything.
So thank you again for being part of this, and thanks for helping us grow the show and share it with your friends so they can find us too.
Okay, so Mary Babbitt, Sip Sip Hooray.
Sip, sip, hooray, Mary. Talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.